Incense. I am Reverend Imran Shuker. Outline. Incense. Christianity. Why do we use incense? How is incense used in the Mass? Where is incense used in the Mass? Incense. I am Reverend Imran Shuker. Outline. Incense. Christianity. Why do we use incense? How is incense used in the Mass? Where is incense used in the Mass? Catholicism is sometimes called the religion of bells and smells. Our tradition engages the whole person. God created us as a unity of body and soul, and we return ourselves entirely to Him in worship. We worship Him in spirit and truth. The Gospel of St. John chapter 4, verse 24. And in our spiritual worship, we present our bodies too as a living sacrifice. The letter of St. Paul to the Romans chapter 12, verse 1. Thus the church worship engages all that we are, including our bodily and spiritual senses. In the liturgy we contemplate the gospel, but that's not all. We hear it, see it, feel it, taste it, and smell it as well. We ring bells to herald the Lord's appearance. We burn fragrant incense before His altar. Our worship is not merely good and true, it is beautiful. We make it beautiful because it is for God. A generation or two ago, incense was used much more commonly in the Mass. There is good reason why non-Catholics came to associate us with bells and smells. They make a powerful impression. So powerful, in fact, that some people worried whether incense was a distraction from true worship. They worried that it might reduce liturgy to a merely aesthetic experience, a religion of externals rather than true interior life. God had warned the Israelite against such pomp, and through the prophet Isaiah, He even went so far to tell them, "Bring no more vain offerings. Incense is an abomination to me." The book of prophet Isaiah, chapter 13, verse 1. Yet God was not abolishing external forms of worship. He wanted His people to be seized, neglecting their interior disposition. In fact, through the prophet Malachi, he foretold a day when, from the rising of the sun to its setting, in every place incense is offered to my name, and a pure offering. The book of prophet Malachi chapter 1 verse 11. Indeed, incense was an important part of biblical religion, and it remains so because God Himself took care to make it so. The offering of incense was an essential duty of the priests of the Old Covenant, and the ancient law took special care to prescribe its fragrance, vessels, and rites. The book of Exodus, chapter 13. Of the high priest Aaron, God said, I choose him out of all the tribe of Israel to be my priest, to go up to my altar to burn incense. The first book of Samuel, chapter 2, verse 28. And so the priest did from the time of Moses to the time of Jesus and beyond. Jesus' kinsman Zechariah was performing his priestly duty, burning incense in the temple, when the angel Gabriel appeared to him. It was apparently customary for a whole multitude of the people to pray nearby at the hour of incense every day. The Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 1, verse 9 till 11. Incense became the most emblematic form of worship. Grains of incense, once dropped into a thurible with hot coals, rise heavenward as fragrant smoke. It's meant to be an outward sign of the inner mystery, that is, true prayer. Let my prayer be counted as incense before you, said the psalmist. Psalm 141, verse 2. The metaphor still works for St. Paul's, the letter of St. Paul to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 18. A Jewish theologian of the first century, Philo of Alexandria, saw the freedom of the incisors smoking rising heavenward as a symbol of mankind's spiritual and rational qualities fashioned after the divine image. When incense was offered with animal sacrifice, he said, it symbolized the entirety of human nature, body and soul, given to God. So closely was incense associated with worship that for the prophets the very image of infidelity was to burn incense to idols. I will utter my judgments against them for all their wickedness in forsaking me. They have burned incense to other gods and worshipped the works of their own hands. The book of prophet Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 16. That image too worked just as well as in the early centuries of Christianity, when Roman law required all citizens to burn incense before the emperor protector deity. In offering the pinch of incense, some Christians saved their lives but committed the mortal sin of apostasy. They abandoned true worship for false, and in doing so, they excommunicated themselves from the church. The Christian who remained true referred to the territories as thurifers, incense burners. Thus, for all the ancients, To burn incense was to offer a richly symbolic act of worship. When St. John the Seer wanted words to depict the worship of the angels in heaven, he described it as attended by the rising smoke of much incense. The book of Revelation, chapter 5, verse 8. The prayers of the saints on earth, he says, rise as incense to heaven. The book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 3 till 4. Thanks for watching Heaven Eternal Home. God bless you all.